Hello, my name is Ron Kaufman, and it is a pleasure for me to bring you a short tribute to an extraordinary human being and a very dear friend, Junah Sowojay Boda, who was previously known as Tombo Day. I first met Tom when he was Tombo Day back in the early era of big Frisbee tournaments in Southern California in the preparation for the World Championships in the Rose Bowl. We were at a field in Orange County somewhere, and I had the microphone because I could present and I knew what was going on and I knew who was playing. And he was the guy who was patrolling around the edges of the entire event. And then he'd walk through the heart of the event, and then he'd swing around one side and the other, and then he'd come up and share with me what he was sensing was going on in the world of the people on the field for the event. And with the mic, I would bring it to voice and share and move the energy, and that's how we got to know each other, as two guys who were crafting energy of large groups and having a ball. We both kept going in flying disc sports. Junah really wanted the sport to go in the direction of cooperative, collaborative, communal expressions of joy and creativity, and there was a whole other group of people who wanted to know who could throw it the farthest. Well, he kind of lost that one. The sport went in the direction of scores and, rankings and tournaments, but Tombo Day was always much more passionate about the pleasure of play than he was about the number of points. Or in his words, it might be the spirit rather than the score. Tom was also fascinated with optics. Now, that was an era when we were all printing images on flying discs in different colors and hot stamps and limited runs. And there were tournaments and people were collecting the hot stamps. And then there were other ones for clubs all over the country. I started the team at Brown. We hot stamped Frisbees like so many other people did. And that was the days when we called them Frisbees, not Frisbee brand flying discs, which is in fact what they are. But Tom designed a whole series of discs that were not about a tournament, they weren't about a club or a location or a time, they were optical. And they were designed so that when they spin, either clockwise or counterclockwise and at different speeds, the design that he created that we hot stamped onto the disc would produce these phenomenal different visual illusions. They were called Tombo Day discs. You can see them at the Flying Disc Museum online. I'll put a link into the section below this video. You can see people who've collected those discs over all the years. After our Frisbee time, during which, by the way, Tom had his Tombo Day Catalog, you could buy the tie-dye shirts, you could buy a bunch of different stuff, as well as discs. I think he was one of the founders, if not the founder, of something called a granny sack, which was a hacky sack that was crocheted by grandmothers, hence the name. Invented a bunch of other stuff, skipping balls on water and this and that. Never quite clicked with the whole patent world to get any one of his magical inventions to stick, any more than some of the games that he created for us to play in flying disc. We never really took them on the way he had hoped and dreamed, and maybe one day we will. I remember in the Discovering the World catalog that I started, we had a whole section for Tombo Day. His shirts and his bags. He had bags of different colors, and his granny sacks, and of course his optical discs. So Tom then moved to Hawaii and was married to Mare Grace. They had a long and wonderful, delicious marriage. I remember visiting them in Hawaii when the two of them were doing wellness support for human beings. They called it Beings in Touch. That's the only time I ever got a business card from Tombo Day. He was still Tombo Day then. It was bright orange. And what it said on it in bold letters was self-healing. And then it listed a whole bunch of different modalities, whether it was astrological chart interpretation, in which he was a master, or it was massage work, or it was breath work, or it was toning, or it was being with nature, or it was playing games, or whether it had to do with bells, or whether it was scents, or flowers, or food, or whatever. All of that were just props for Junah to be able to share and love and care and help people. And he really was an amazing helper. But it's interesting how his card said self-healing. He always knew he wasn't the healer. He was just an empty channel for the conveyance of what he could bring to others so that others could heal themselves. Some point in that era where Tom moved back to Southern California, he also changed a name. Maybe it was before, maybe on arrival, to Junah Sowojay Boda. B-O-D-A, spelled the same, but the pronunciation different and new names. And over many more years, I'd visit him in Carlsbad or Southern California, wherever he was. And occasionally he came up to Seattle to visit with my family and I, my wife Jen. Once he came all the way out to Singapore and stayed with us for a while there and met every member of our team. The most extraordinary interpreter of what's going on a human energetic level. And then also the ability, if you could listen, if you could hear it, to convey. All props for transformation, for the evolution of our spirits and our souls. During the many long years, we would have Zoom calls, about an hour every couple of months, sometimes 3 months, and they're all recorded. And oh my goodness. For any of you who have any recording of any session with Junah, you know that if you go back and listen to it at some point, it's going to be speaking to you all over again. But did he say that last time, or were you the listener that are now that you weren't done the last time? If you have it, enjoy it. In the book, in one of the books that I wrote called Uplifting Service, the very, very, very last chapter is kind of bringing the whole readership from service to care to love. And there's a call-out quote, one of only 2 or 3 in the whole book. And this one's from Junah. It says, "All the mass in the world is an empty channel for the conveyance of your spirit in the realization of their spirit. That's what service really is." Now, towards the last years, nobody knew it was his last years, I kind of grabbed him and said, "Come on, let's print something of yours." And he sent me more than 1,000 haiku. I said, "Junah, we can't print 1,000 haiku. Would you?" And he shortened it down to, I think it's 146 pages with 3 on each page of haiku that Junah wrote in previous years, and we put it all up and got it paginated, and some hard copies actually got printed out through Lulu, but the PDF is available for anybody watching this who wants to download and read Junah's haikus. You'll see the link down in the section below this video. For many, 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 many years, days, Junah blogged every single day. And his blog is called Not for Lazy Readers. So if you type in Not for Lazy Readers, that's the first thing that'll pop up on a search, but I'll also put the link directly to the blog down in the bottom section. And because he blogged every single day, apparently early in the morning, there were people around his community who, the day he didn't blog, I guess they knew something was up. I don't know what happened, and I may find out. And for Junah, it doesn't really matter. So on June 7th, which is a Friday, the last day he blogged, the title of that last blog is called Without Being an Entity. Without Being an Entity. And I don't have that in front of me right now, so I can't read it to you, but I'll read it into this recording later on. The voice will sound different. Just want you to hear the last thing he wrote. Junah's final blog post is 65 lines long. I'll read you the last 15. I don't want to chew. I want a sense for the isness present, not my general means of interacting, not someone telling me this is a good wine, or what elevation is, or where you're standing. I just want out. No more bystander status. No lip service bee. Just the zoom of essence without sensory account, without mind as my seeing eye dog. To be vibrationally at home without being an entity. The next morning, some people who follow him realized he hadn't written it, and I guess went over and found out. Oh, For those of you wondering whether or not it's going to be enjoyable for you to go to the haiku, I did copy one down. It's called Hard Distinctions. Spirit to spirit, between living or dying. No hard distinctions. So the day we learned, thank you Tom Kennedy for sending me a note, that Junah had passed. Later on that day, after a good dose of tears, we went diving. My wife and I are pretty avid scuba divers, and went to the most beautiful site in this area. It's called Kudara Tila. And because it's a tila, it doesn't break the surface like an island. It's just below water, and the top of it's at 17 meters. So it's a deep dive, and everybody goes down and enjoys. And because my wife and I have been diving a long time, we usually have extra time still left in our tanks. The last 10 minutes of the dive, we were on the top of this tila at 17 meters, and she connected with a reef hook, and I found a place to hang on, and we found an octopus. And octopuses are really, really special to us. We met the very first time we went diving, Jen and I, and came upon 2 mating octopuses. We have a lot of octopuses in our house. If you're watching this, please don't eat octopus. And we found one. And what we do with octopus is you kind of back off and kind of wait and then see if they get comfortable, and then they'll come out and show you their stuff. They show you how they swim around the reef. They show you how they eat. They show you how they can play with their different arms. And this one, sizable one, just sat there in his nook in the reef, just sat there and looked back. And for 10 minutes, Jenny hung on the reef hook, I was on the reef, and we got to just look eye to eye with an octopus. And when 10 minutes were up, I let go and she unhooked, and just as we were drifting away, back up towards the surface, just as we were moving away, the octopus swam out and swam away. And we realized that we got to say goodbye. Junah ended every session saying 2 things, which I share with you as ours. Bless your being. And the last word, I believe, in Sanskrit means victory to your spirit.